Council to order. Mary Jo, if you could do the roll call.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Belvier.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Andy Selhertz.
Here.
Katie Gallagher.
Here.
Tony DeMarco.
Here.
Ron Van Kirk.
He is absent and excused tonight. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We first have to pass minutes from May 12, 2014. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve. Second.
To approve, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belvier.
No.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Okay, first tonight we're going to start with a proclamation from the mayor.
Okay, Kung Fu, come on up. I told them they have to help me with this pronunciation here. Okay, this is a proclamation to honor and recognize the U.S. Shuaichao Kung Fu Academy West on being world champions. Whereas 2014 World Shuaichao Championship Tournament was held in Rome, Italy from May 16th through May 18th, 2014. And whereas there were 26 countries competing with over 200 competitors total. Whereas the U.S. team consisted of 28 competitors and an 18-member support unit. The Kung Fu Academy West, located in Brooklyn, had 5 athletes on the team. And whereas of the 5 athletes competing, Brooklyn's team representatives were able to achieve 2 medals, and the Team USA took first place in the entire tournament. And whereas the owners, Daniel and Jessica Cliff, who serve as the program director, have put forth much hard work and effort and dedication to the success of their academy. I, Mayor Richard H. Balbier, on behalf of the Brooklyn City Council and the citizens of the City of Brooklyn, extend our sincere congratulations to the Kung Fu West Academy on earning the title World Champions in the Shuaichao World Tournament. We are truly proud in recognizing this outstanding achievement. In case you're wondering, they're located on Memphis Avenue, the last building in Brooklyn on where that little delicatessen used to be, where Greg Fry's offices were. That's where they're located on Memphis. You can leave if you want. You don't have to sit through the whole council meeting. It's not as exciting as Kung Fu, I'll tell you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I have some good news. The TV for the school and council meetings is back online, so if you have had a chance to check it out, you can see all the council meetings and school board meetings, and they're kind of updating all the past meetings as well. Since the last meeting, council met on June 5th at 6:30 for a work session with the mayor, finance director, law director, and the safety chiefs. The topics of conversation include regional dispatch, human resource consultant, donation boxes throughout the city, the proposed ordinance to change the qualifications for the mayor and council, employee salaries, and transparency to council. The mayor updated council on his various discussion with other cities regarding partnering up for regional dispatch. The regional dispatch discussion has been going around in this area for several years, but more cities are trying to partner up in recent months because consolidating dispatch centers will be a state requirement by 2018. Therefore, it is the city's advantage to move forward with this process sooner than later so we can have more control over the terms of our agreement. Our fire and police chiefs have put together some financial figures of costs and projected savings and a list of reasons why it would be improved service for our residents. They will give this to council shortly, and once council has had a chance to read it over the documents, we will authorize the mayor to sign a letter of intent to form a partnership. I will let the mayor speak on this topic if he wants to elaborate any further. Do you want to, or do you want to wait? Okay. The mayor also presented council with a contract for Clems Nelson to provide human resource consultation 1 day a week at a cost of $825 per day. We discussed the terms of the initial 6-month contract and the proposed price. The mayor passed on information for an ordinance that was given to him to limit donation boxes in the city for nonprofit organizations only. Council spoke about the proposed qualification changes for council and the mayor as seen on the agenda tonight. I will let each member of council discuss their own views on these changes. I did request that our law director give a report tonight about the possible legal implications of this ordinance, since that was a common concern amongst many of the members. Okay. At this time, we will hold the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step to the podium, state your name, address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Tom Adamski, 9625 Melody Lane, Brooklyn, Ohio. I want to acknowledge my gratitude on behalf of the residents of Melody Lane to Mr. Verba regarding the patching of our street, which is disintegrating. They first did it on a rainy day, and I asked them if the opportunity would come to do a better job, and they did, and much improvement. Thank you. I would like to ask regarding Ordinance 2014-33, providing for submission to the electric of two amendments to the municipal charter. My question is, why is this being done to the electric, and why not to a charter commission? I know from being on a previous charter commission, usually it's every 4 years, so I'd like an answer to that. To Councilwoman Bell-Beer and Council Kevin Tansky, I would like to hear your opinions regarding Resolution 2014-3 on the reduction of the municipal income tax from 2.5 to 2.5%. To Councilman DeMarco and to the rest of the council, as I have said before, I don't think it's proper to try to get a resolution passed and say submit it to just to the citizens. As council people, you have been elected to represent the people. Regarding finances, you have the expertise of Mr. Enovich. You have the inside documents regarding other amendments and future finances. And I really don't think, as I asked Mr. Enovich, as I asked Mr. DeMarco last time if he had any plan, he said no. He said the figures speak for themselves. I remind council back in May on the Brooklyn School Levy, on the constant campaign that was mentioned by representatives of the school board and some council people and myself, that it was a renewal levy with no increase in taxes. I also, in a council meeting, I reminded residents that there was a rider put on Governor Kasich's budget, that if that levy would have failed, then all residents would have lost the 12.5% Homestead Act. Then the school board would have to go for a new levy and new millage. The vote in May, of course, is usually not well attended. Only 16% of all the population of voters in Brooklyn voted on it. The vote for was 1,115. Against was 985. That in percentages for the for represented 53.10%, and for those against represented 46.9. I think this would jeopardize the finances, as well as it was mentioned by bond representatives that any reduction in the debt would be looked at as a negative, plus the fact of the future of $5 million bond issue for the police. To Chief Milky, a question I have is on the new vehicles and the new computer system. After the school construction is done, there's computer graphics that can give the police the complete outline of an emergency situation of the characteristics of the building, of the evacuation units, of the safety units. I would like to know if the equipment at that time will provide that. Thank you.
This is Sharon Kovach, 4802 Elizabeth Lane. I'm a volunteer with the American Cancer Society, and I just wanted to remind all Brooklyn residents that the Relay for Life of Brooklyn is going to be held on June 28th to the 29th. Due to the construction at our usual site at the stadium, this year it's going to be held in front of the rec center on the front lawn, and we encourage anyone to attend. We want to thank the mayor for allowing us to have it in front of the rec center this year, and also John Verba for helping us plan it, as well as the police and fires. They help us every year. Relay for Life is an 18-hour event that brings together teams from local businesses, schools, churches, and families for fun, food, music, entertainment, and a night under the stars, while team members take turns walking laps around the front lawn. It symbolizes we walk all night because cancer doesn't sleep, we don't sleep. Relay for Life begins with a cancer survivors lap and a free luncheon afterwards. The money raised from this event will go to the American Cancer Society's research, education, advocacy, and patient service programs. And those include Look Good, Feel Better, which is a program for women going through chemotherapy. They also assist patients that can't make it to their medical appointments. And also the money helps with Hope Lodge, which gives out-of-town patients a place to stay while they're getting treatments here in the Cleveland area. We've been working hard since October to plan this event. This year's theme is board games, and rumor has it somebody's making a life-size game of Operation. If any of you played Operation when you were a kid, they're going to have a life-size one there. There's going to be all kinds of entertainment and food. One of the highlights of the event is the Luminaria ceremony, which begins at dusk. During that event, people purchase a luminary in memory or in honor of someone who has been touched by cancer. The Luminaria bags are placed around the lawn and lit during a memorial program. And this is a time that truly highlights the importance of fighting this disease. The American Cancer Society Relay for Life represents the hope that those lost to cancer will never be forgotten, that those who face cancer will be supported, and that one day cancer will be eliminated. We encourage everyone, all Brooklyn residents, bring your friends, your family, your coworkers out to the event. It starts at 1 o'clock, June 28th. We will be there until 8 a.m. Sunday, June 29th. All teams don't necessarily have to stay overnight. Some go home and come back in the morning. Closing ceremonies will be at 7 a.m. If you for further information, you can go to our website, relayforlife.org/BrooklynOH. There's also forms here at City Hall and at the Rec Center. I encourage you all to come and enjoy the time with us. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Victor Ardito, 7439 Outlook Avenue. I'd like to thank the EMS squad. The night my mom passed away, did a very nice job, very courteous. And another thing, new neighbor there on Outlook, they purchased a retired woman's house, and she had a small trash container. I asked him, well, call the city, I think you can get a bigger one. He goes, I did, and it's $90. Is there any type of trade-in program? Do we have extra large ones? I mean, people come in there and to me get sticker shock. Pardon?
Want me to answer?
Go ahead, Mr.
I'm just saying, that's what I was told.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later, or you can just give me the address. What we do is we can just exchange them. There's no cost for that.
Oh, he
And-
called somebody in the city.
And then also, if they do buy a new one, it's only the cost what we pay, and I believe it's like $46.75 or something like that. It's not I don't know who told $90.
Yeah, he called
But, yeah, what's the address?
I'm not sure. It's across from me, one house. Oh, and Avila's old house?
Okay, I'll talk to you after
I
and
can get it
figure it out.
later. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jennifer Maladneo, 7419 Brookside Drive. I'm here today on behalf of the Laurel Garden Club of Brooklyn, Ohio. We had one of my, let's say cohorts in crime, but one of my fellow members on the club spoke last meeting about the VeggieU program that the Garden Club funded partially for the schools in Brooklyn. Well, we are able to do that through fundraisers of the group, and our biggest fundraiser is the annual plant sale. So I would like to remind everyone that the plant sale is tomorrow from 5 to 8 p.m. in the community room behind the fire station. There will be perennials, annuals, and vegetables at bargain prices. I realize that speaking today is too late for those who will be television viewers, but everyone here can either come or, give the word to their friends, families, and neighbors, and I hope to see a lot of people there supporting the club. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure to get something on Facebook and Twitter. Does anyone else have anything for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn? Okay, we will now move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards. First up tonight is Finance and Economic Development Committee. Councilwoman Pucci.
Thank you. Good evening. I kind of have a lot to cover, so I'll try and move through it quickly. The Finance Committee did meet earlier this evening because we had a more lengthy agenda. We did start at 6:15, and those meetings are always open to the public. All are welcome. These are the items that we considered and recommended that council approve. The first was to advertise for bids for the full maintenance service program, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning for City Hall, Senior Center, Service Garage, Animal Shelter, Historical Society, and the Fire Department. Last time we went out for bid, it was somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000. Next is approval of bids for our 2014 street repair program. And we recommended that we award to the lowest and best bidder of Roniak Paving for sections 1 and 2. We are not going to award the contingencies 1A and 2A. The total will be $1,195,852.25. Next was request to accept transfer of assets. The fire chief secured 54 portable radios for police and fire, which will enable them to recycle some of the current radios down to the service department. The value is $134,568. The city does have to purchase the lapel mics and chargers. Next was from Chief Milkey for bulletproof vests. We're going to purchase 27 vests for a total cost of $27,122.58. We are hoping to receive a partial reimbursement from a grant for approximately $10,000, so hopefully our net cost will only be about $17,000. Next was the annual tax budget. This has to be adopted by council by July 15th. And residents will be pleased to hear that we will continue with the current 5.9 mills with the following distribution. General fund, general fund inside millage, 1.3 mills. Bond retirement per the charter, 0.30 mills. General fund, charter, 1 mill. Street lighting, 0.42 mills. Fireman's pension, 0.90 mills. Police pension, 0.70 mills. Police, that was inside. Police pension per the charter, 0.73 mills, and fire pension per the charter, 0.55 mills. I do believe we're the only community that has not exhausted their inside millage. So we do not charge the residents as much as we can. Next was authorizing the purchase and installation of an air ventilation system at the service garage for $92,193.97. Next was authorizing the sale of certain city-owned vehicles through an auction. And then authorizing transfers and advances. And they are from the general fund to street lighting, $60,000. From the general fund to bond retirement, $290,000. From the general fund to the Safety Forces Construction Fund, $141,914.77. And then those same funds move from Safety Forces Construction to bond retirement. We also received some reports from Mr. Enovich. Thank you very much. And another topic we discussed was 2 vehicles for the fire department, a command vehicle and a pickup truck. The committee did vote to move forward, so we'll have an ordinance on those for the next meeting. And we also, for the next meeting, will have an update on our capital expenditures to date. And we had a brief discussion on possibly addressing 5 positions within the city who will, unless council takes action, will be the only people not to get a raise this year. Economic development. We met on June 4th at 9:30 at City Hall and discussed the following items. We received an update on an offer we made for a residential property. Mrs. Miglerino advised me this evening that it has been accepted, so there will be an ordinance for the next meeting. Along with that will be an agreement with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank, because we will contract through them to demolish this dilapidated house. The Land Bank, we also talked about Idlewood residential property, and they are moving forward with that. Clean Life Energy, we're still going back and forth with them. We have not come to an agreement. Loving Cup Kids Academy of Brooklyn for their job creation grant, they have filed for an extension. Some new business, Senvio, we had a pre-application for a job creation retention grant. Lumen Park, we only received the information that day, so right now it's under review for a CRA and a job creation grant. There was a resident who requested the city look at possibly selling part of city property that abuts their property. The committee voted not to do that at this time. We discussed Dean Martin's, because he started in September of 13, he only has 3 months in of municipal income tax receipts. So per their request, we're going to extend the period. Instead of paying them in June of 14, we will pay them in January of 15. The last item on our agenda, there had been a recommendation for a member. We had been looking for a long time for interested residents, and we voted to put Deb Tomusco on the Economic Development Committee. That completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Recreation Board, Councilman Tansky.
Thank you, Council President Gallagher. Brooklyn Recreation Center Learn to Swim registration has begun and will run through June 16th during business hours. Cost for residents, $45. Cost for non-residents, $60. Parma Heights Partnership, $52.50. Evening session classes are held on Monday and Wednesday. Morning session classes are held Monday through Friday. Classes begin on June 16th. Competitive swim class are held on Tuesday and Thursday and Friday evenings. Cost as follows. Residents, $65. Non-residents, $90. Parma Heights Partnership, $77.50. Warm-ups begin at 7:15 p.m. Swim from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Rec Board meetings are canceled for June, July, and August for the summer. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Public Works Committee and School Board Liaison, Councilman Selhertz.
Thank you. On May 30th, we had a Public Works Committee meeting, and we talked about the recycled automated recycle truck. We had an update by Mr. Verba on it in regards to the state grant and process of it. We're expecting to get paperwork going and application in. There should be a spring delivery 2015 of the equipment with the toters. As you heard Mrs. Pucci mention, we also talked about the exhaust system for the garage. Public Works Committee forwarded it to the Finance Committee, and now you hear tonight it's going on to full council. We also got an update on the V-Hook truck, talking to Mr. Verba just a little bit ago. There's still some details that have to be worked out on it. The V-Hook truck is actually like a multi-purpose truck for leaves, salt spreading, etc. Just trying to make sure that we get everything correct before we go out to bid on it. One of the other things we talked about is the lighting upgrade at the service garage. We have received 2 bids. There's a 3rd bid yet coming out. Hopefully we can get this thing going on sooner than better. Mr. Verba also expressed his future needs for the service department with equipment. And then we had a discussion about the rec center, how to put some money into some areas that actually do need some repair and improvement right now as compared to the general overall plan of the rec center. Do we spend $100,000, $150,000 now to fix something that maybe in a year or 2 years we might actually tear down and try to make it a bit bigger, better project? So it's trying to be wise with our city money. For the school report, the next regular school board meeting in June is scheduled to be on June 17th, 2014. The regular monthly meetings are open to the public. Tomorrow, a State of Schools presentation will be done by Cynthia Walker, school superintendent, at the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce luncheon to be held at the Hampton Inn on Tiedemann Road at 11:30 a.m. For information, contact the Chamber of Commerce. There was a special meeting of Brooklyn City School District this past Tuesday, June 3rd at 5:45 p.m. The meeting was a work session to discuss the building project and any other business that may come before the board. The board intends to go into executive session for the purpose of preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, as well as the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee. Also on that date, a groundbreaking ceremony took place at 6 p.m. with school board members, school administration, and city officials there, as well as members from ICON. You can see about the groundbreaking on cleveland.com or the school board's website or the city's Facebook page. Also, some good news, there was a Teacher of Week presentation done by Channel 5. It went to Mr. Sean Sullivan. Nice little article about him and his endeavors. The students really enjoy him, like him. On Thursday, June 5th, 2014, there was a Safe Routes to School meeting that was held at the board office. Discussion was held on this year's bike rodeo and also on next year's. Next year is tentatively set for, right now, for May 9th, a Saturday. There's also going to be an added hour to a program from, instead of 9 to 11, it's going to be 9 to noon. At the meeting, there was also an announcement that they received a grant this year, or a grant for next year, an amount of $25,000. And even though school has ended, they're already starting to get ready for next year. Volunteers are being sought for the walking school bus program. It's part of their Safe Routes to School program. And people, their parents, or just anybody in general who may be interested, please contact Susie Markey, and it's at, you can contact her by email at Suzy, SUZY .MARQUIS at brooklyn.k.12.oh.us. And as you may have heard by Katie, the survey was done by the school administration for the future of Brooklyn TV. Roughly about 65 to 70 people actually participated in the survey. The system's up and running now, and we're going to wait to see how the results with the board determining, the school board determining, and how they're going to handle the future. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have a report tonight? No, I do not. Okay. The Planning Commission met Thursday, June 5th, and they deferred a request from B-Next Awnings and Graphics to place a new illuminated pole sign and canopy sign at 4295 Tiedemann Road for business identification of Sunoco. The reason for the deferment was there was nobody present to represent the company. We passed a request from Brilliant Electric Sign Company to replace existing wall-mounted signs for business identification of Hooley House Sports Pub and Grill located at 10310 Cascade Crossing, and passed a request from JF Signs for a wall-mounted sign for business identification of the Tavern on Bidoff located at 7104 Bidoff Road. We'll now move on to reports of council. First up tonight is Kathy Pucci.
Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate Kung Fu West Academy on their amazing accomplishment of being world champions. All of Brooklyn is very proud of your success. Also, congratulations to Mr. Sean Sullivan for being named Teacher of the Week. It kind of makes me feel old because I can remember his very first year here. I was working on a committee celebrating Founders Day, and we actually, when he was a brand new teacher, asked him to provide the entertainment. And you know, right from the get-go, his enthusiasm was contagious. He's like the Pied Piper with these kids. I know that it's the largest extracurricular that we have in the schools, so congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. And thank you to Mrs. Kovach for speaking about the Relay to Life. I'd like to personally thank you for your efforts because Mrs. Kovach has spearheaded and coordinated this effort in Brooklyn for many years. And I would encourage people to please support this good cause. I attended the Public Works Committee meeting that was on May 30th. I was glad that I got the opportunity. There was quite a lot on the agenda and it was very informative. I'd like to thank the department heads for all their time and assistance over the past month or so. In the warm weather, our complaints and concerns from residents really increases, and we bother the directors and department heads and chiefs with a lot of items, and I just would like to thank everybody for their quick response. I'd also like to thank Mr. Verba. I was able to visit the garage about a week and a half ago. I hadn't been down there in a little while, so that was good to get down there. I attended the groundbreaking for the new school. This is a very exciting project for our community. They are working at a very, very aggressive timeline in order to have this done. So I was very happy to be asked to be a part of the groundbreaking. Mr. Selhertz mentioned that the Safe Routes to School Committee did get funding again next year. We've been very successful in our applications. We've been funded every single year that we've requested funds. And the walking school bus and the Wednesday walking kind of had to go by the wayside this year because of all the construction on Ridge Road. So we are really hoping that once that construction is finished, that we'll have, whether it's a parent, grandparent, or just interested community member, you can be as involved as you want to be. But it's really a good cause, and it's also really a lot of fun helping the kids walk to school. And I believe that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Belbeer.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. I, too, would like to congratulate the Shuai Chao Kung Fu Martial Arts School on their marvelous victory in Rome. I know that's a lot of hard work for those boys and girls, and I know my dearest friend, Betty Eggers, has just signed up her little grandson to that program, and he is just so excited about it. So congratulations to them. Folks, there are a couple things I'd like to comment on tonight. First, the ordinance that involves reduction of city income tax. This would reduce our income tax from 2.5% to 2.25%. We are all aware that American Greetings is leaving us. I am a positive person and have always been positive. I believe that our city will be on fine ground once they make the move. We will survive and we will thrive, but it may be rocky for a while. As to lowering our tax rate, nobody is for higher taxes, including everyone on council. But until we have fully neutralized the leaving of American Greetings, this income tax, the way it is now, is needed. We have heard from our experts, including our underwriters from KeyCorp and more importantly, our finance director, Dan Enovich, who pointed out what a potential disaster a move this is at this time. We would be losing $1.7 million in revenue a year. To put that in perspective, this city would have to gain new employees in the city, grossing $75 million a year. This is the equivalent of 1,500 new jobs at $50,000 apiece. A reduction now has the potential of leading to cutbacks and loss of services in the near future, perhaps at the senior center, the rec center, the service garage. Until we successfully weather the leaving of American Greetings, and we will, a reduction of the income tax is a very poor idea. It is also interesting that 90% of the people who pay these taxes do not live in our city. I am for a reduction of taxes, just as much as the next person. Hopefully, in the near future, we may be able to revisit the situation. But right now, it's a very, very poor idea. Secondly, I would like to address my thoughts concerning the proposed amendments to the charter. As you know, this would be limiting who may run for elected office in the city simply by being related to somebody who has been elected or who works full-time for the city. This would affect a number of families, including the Balbiers. I find it appalling that we would consider banning qualified people from running from office and restrict who voters may consider to elect. This amendment in effect states that if you are a God-fearing, law-abiding citizen, you have no right to run for office if you belong to certain families. There is no doubt in my mind this has nothing to do with the good and welfare of the people of Brooklyn. In fact, by stopping civic-minded people from running for office, it is to the detriment of the people of Brooklyn. This is all politically motivated. If this ordinance were on the books, in the past, our former mayor, John Coyne, would not have been allowed to serve. This would have applied to the Pucci's and the Gallaghers, and also to two of our stellar residents, John and Greg Fry. The Frys would not have been able to give the service that they did to our city. Our law director says that under this amendment, our fine mayor would not be able to run for re-election. Isn't that convenient? When I decided to run for office, my kids were out of college and out of the house. Even though I help run a family business, I now have a little time to devote to civic duties. I always felt that it was my time to give back. I went door to door, and residents were aware that I was a Balbier, and they encouraged me to run, and they voted for me. And you know what? I believe I'm a better person for running for office. This amendment, in effect, would say any family in Brooklyn, including their in-laws, can have only one member elected to a city office, or being an employee of the city. This is ridiculous, and it smells of political undertones. Isn't it amazing that people on council who are backing this charter amendment are running in the next election, and this would affect the eligibility of potential opponents? I believe in the American dream. Trying to restrict civic-minded people from running for office because they are related to somebody else or have the same last name is blatantly unconstitutional and un-American. We should all on council be men and women for others. Our duty is to serve the people of Brooklyn. We should be concerned about our residents thinking up new ideas and trying to bring community together instead of stacking up our political cards. The bottom line is this: you can take this ordinance and all these charter amendments and put them in a gorgeous Tiffany box with a beautiful satin bow, but it's still going to stink. You're going to open it up and it stinks of political undertones. And that's my report.
Thank you. Kevin Tansky.
Thank you. I have a couple things tonight. Discussion was held on consolidating the dispatch for police, fire, and EMS with Parma and Parma Heights. We are in the process of obtaining figures as to the cost of the city from the current dispatch system to a consolidated dispatch system. Chief Melky, I believe you are putting figures together that will be presented. Am I correct? Also, we have union jobs that are into the dispatch department. Where are these jobs going to go? Can you give us a little update, and what will they be offered? As far as you were mentioning, I believe, taking a test and moving on maybe into the other consolidated dispatch.
Mr. Tansky, he told us he would give us documents at a later date for the next council meeting
On the dispatch?
on exactly what you're asking for, so just give him time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ordinance 2014-33, introduced by Councilman Anthony DeMarco, amending Section 2 of Article 3 regarding qualifications for candidates seeking election to council, and Section 1 of Article 4 entitled Term of Office for the Mayor in the City of Brooklyn. Mr. Clausen, we did talk about you giving a legal opinion on this situation. Can you look in this deeply? Because I would love to know on what the state has anything going on, the county, and let me know some kind of opinion, your opinion, whether it's going to be concrete, because I haven't heard anything. I've made some calls and I can't get any kind of answers. So if you could look into that, I'd appreciate it. In reference to Article 14-32, we have a major company departing in the city of Brooklyn. I don't believe at this time we as council should support this ordinance. However, if we can put a long-term plan together in the future on reducing taxes, I would be very open to it, as long as it does not reduce city services to our residents. Mr. Verba, traffic flow on westbound on Bidoff. The left lane, I believe right now, is turning to the left, and also you can go straight past Ridge going west on Bidoff. This traffic here is backing up past Giant Eagle, and I've gotten numerous complaints. The right lane going westbound is only turning to the right. Now, I think the only way we can, and I've seen almost a couple accidents, matter of fact, in front of me when I was there.
That's been changed. Traffic pattern's been changed on Friday.
That's been changed on Friday? What is it?
It's back to normal that way.
So the left lane going westbound is now going straight through? Or is it just turning?
Just, we'll double check. I mean, it's the same way that it was designed to do. I mean, it's gone back to the normal way.
Okay.
I think it might have even been Thursday that they
Back
changed.
up one way or the other.
Well, what was happening, Chief, was the right lane going westbound was going around the left lane, around the construction, and then going west on Bidoff after they're crossing Ridge. And then the left lane, that was the right lane. The left lane is also going straight, and there's been almost a couple accidents. And I believe the school guards could even talk to you about what was going on, because I did talk to a couple of them.
Yeah, that's all been changed. It's all back to normal.
It's all back to normal?
Yeah.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Andy Selhertz.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Verba for looking into and trying to resolve resident situations on Torrance as well as the one on Ira and Ridge. Thank you to Chief Melky for getting the flashing caution lights working at the underpass over on Memphis Avenue. That's the train bridge before we go into Lindale. I'm going to be asking for a work session to be held on June 24th at 7 p.m. This is going to be a follow-up meeting that Mr. Anovich and myself had with another manufacturer's rep for lighting. This time it will be for LED street lighting. The meeting that we had lasted about 60 to 75 minutes. We discussed a number of things. We still can put LED street lighting in on Ridge Road. The technology of the LED lighting on the Cobra heads makes it possible to focus the lighting better. The payback on the fixtures is within about 3 years. We also probably should start looking at making some lighting decorative on Memphis Avenue, since we're going to be repaving it in a few years. As an example of trying to spruce up the area, I know Fran's one of the proponents of this, is if you look in Lakewood, downtown Lakewood, a little bit west of Detroit and Warren, there's an area, Discount Drug Mart Plaza, that's one street. Neighbors, a local neighborhood, Arthur Avenue, which is even like 2 blocks further west, is more decorative lighting, or if you're in a downtown area on West 6th between St. Clair and Superior, you'll see these old-fashioned street lights and actually have pole extensions where you can have hanging baskets on them. It makes it a nice, attractive, appealing presentation of the city, which might be a nice idea for Memphis Avenue. I know we've been talking about and with the focus groups. On Wednesday, May 28th, I attended a program by the Brooklyn Historical Society that was presented by Kevin McGee. He is the Deputy Director of Cleveland Underwater Explorers, better known as CLUE. His presentation was about the Sultan, Cleveland's Grindstone Shipwreck. It's about shipwreck in 1864. It was discovered by the CLUE divers in 2011. It was just a nice program. Brooklyn Historical Society, they have some nice programs that maybe give them a call. And it had nice attendance, but it could be a little bit even better attendance. It's a nice way to spend the evening. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Tony DeMarco.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Verba. I'm sure most everyone on council sends him on a wild goose chase every now and again. And the one thing about Mr. Verba is that he does follow through to conclusion whether or not he can satisfy a resident or not. So I want to thank you for the many emails I send you early in the morning on questions and that from residents in the city. It's much appreciated. It is unfortunate but not surprising that my colleagues do not support legislation I proposed at the last council meeting. Unfortunately, what is best and right for a majority of the residents of the city of Brooklyn is not what is best for a few elected officials and their close friends. Let's review the tax cut proposal, which is Resolution 2014-3 and Ordinance 2014-32. The easy path to take, with the tax rate keeping it the same and hoping that jobs come to Brooklyn without a plan. This is a very reactive route to securing the financial future of our city. My strategy takes a proactive approach by reducing an artificially high tax rate and making our city more competitive. Allow me to take everyone back in time not so long ago in our city's history, which will provide a glimpse into why excess revenue in the hands of elected officials and their close allies produces bad results for our residents. Washington, D.C. is a perfect example of these excesses, but I don't have the time to go into that this evening. In the early 2000s, a new administration was elected, and the city was in excellent shape financially. In an effort to work together and show the community that there was a cohesion among elected officials, careless spending began to increase, employment increased, annual budgets were passed, and frankly, the level of service in our city did not improve much. Yet none of our elected officials said a word. Our current mayor was a member of city council at that time. Then one day, someone made the startling discovery that we didn't have enough money in our general fund to make payroll, and something needed to be done. And by that time, of course, it was too late. The spending problem was then exacerbated by the downturn in the economy, not the other way around. I want to be very clear on this point. The budget problems that the city experienced in 2007, 8, etc., was a result of a lack of overspending and a lack of planning on city officials' part. So as is typical for most governmental bodies, they turn to the taxpayers for help. Regardless of what the story was at the time, the residents voted to increase the income tax rate in the city of Brooklyn to 2.5% from the then current 2%. Here we are 5 years later. Our financial picture has improved dramatically, but why? Is it because employment levels have returned to pre-recession levels? Absolutely not. The economic development that we continue to talk about, in my opinion, is non-existent. Spending cuts, which were necessary and a good thing, along with increased tax revenues from a higher tax rate, have allowed the city to dig out of a financial hole that we are in. But we all should ask ourselves, what was the price residents in our city now had to pay for this type of, in my opinion, horrible leadership? For a variety of reasons, of which the tax increase was one, our largest employer has decided to move the world headquarters out of the city of Brooklyn. Furthermore, during this time, the infrastructure and capital improvement needs of our city were also neglected. In my opinion, the key with any life experiences is what we have learned and how do we ensure that these types of mistakes don't happen again. Our inflated income tax rate is giving most elected officials a false sense of financial security. People are under the assumption that because we have such a large balance in our general fund, we must be doing something right. Unfortunately, we have not learned from our past mistakes. Now, instead of having our large chunk of income tax tied to one employer that is now leaving the city, we have now switched to another large employer and hitched our wagon to them. I absolutely hope they'll be successful. To solidify my point on economic development and the lack of confidence in our non-existent strategy, several people at the last council meeting mentioned that we will be losing $4 million when American Greetings leaves, plus the additional $1.7 million from my proposed tax cut. These comments essentially make my point. What everyone is saying is they do not have the confidence that we have a plan to attract one new additional job to this city in the next several years. Has anybody thought about that? It is ironic commentary on a point that I have made repeatedly. People have also talked about the possibility of building a new police facility. We absolutely need that. I don't know how we think we're going to do that if we don't replace the jobs that are leaving. We can keep our tax rate at 2.5%, and when American Greetings leaves and we don't replace those jobs, the city will run out of money and services will be cut. I'm not aware of a plan to help remake our city. If there is a plan, why are members of council and the residents in the dark as to what our strategy is? Neither the mayor nor members of this council or the previous council have provided any tangible ideas on how we attack the biggest issue our city has faced in its history. It's as if we're driving in a car whose brakes aren't working and the brick wall is getting closer and closer. I don't believe this is the kind of leadership that our residents are looking for. Some have said, we know there will be a gap in revenue, something we all know. The question is, what are we doing to address it? If there are other ideas, I am certainly open to hearing them. I'm certainly not saying I have all the answers, but I do believe that our residents deserve and demand better from all of us. We had a special council meeting last Thursday to discuss a number of items. We got on the topic of pay increases for our employees. Without getting into the details, increases approved by the mayor and everybody on this council, except for me who did not approve the budget, have now added an annual total of $250,000 in additional salaries and benefits to our payroll. If you compound this over time, let's say 3 or 4 years, that's $1 million in additional spending. This is simply not the leadership everyone deserves and is not responsible government. We can and should do better. As for ordinance 2014-33, I do want to start off by saying this isn't something I just kind of rolled out of bed with a couple weeks ago and decided to throw it on the agenda. I have been discussing this with several people outside the city. I've made our law director aware of it months ago. And to say that this is politically motivated is actually kind of funny. Again, not to my surprise and disappointment, the response from some of our council members at our meeting last Thursday contained the words, I, we, and me. Very, very sad. All of us were elected to do the work of the people of the city. Public service is not about how this can benefit me. It's about benefiting the greater good. Fortunately for all of us, some of my colleagues do not feel that way. This ordinance is not about taking away a person's right to be elected. It's simply about removing conflicts of interest among elected officials and family members and about making Brooklyn a more transparent city. Comments at our special meeting last Thursday were of the variety such as, this hasn't been an issue in the past, why bring it up now? Other families have done this in the past, why is it a problem now? Again, very, very sad commentary. My simple response was just because it was done in the past does not make it right. At the end of the day, all I'm asking council to do is approve this ordinance which puts the issue on the November ballot. Let our residents decide if they want potential conflicts of interest to continue to exist in our city. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I think everybody covered the congratulations and thank you, but I also like to thank all the residents and the Boy Scouts who came out to help with Friends of Big Creek watershed cleanup. The winter weather leaves a lot of debris in our parks and our rivers, and this really helps the recreation department and the service department get off to a good start for the summer. Also, I'd like to congratulate Sean Sullivan and announce that the Brooklyn Marching Band was marching down Main Street at Disney World yesterday, so that's very cool. And they'll be there all week, so hopefully we can get a couple pictures and put them on Facebook. And that is all I have. Move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you. I attended a mayor's meeting the other day, and Mary Sutherland from Bay Village gave a talk on the Asian carp in Lake Erie. And that may not appeal to a lot of people, but I'm interested in it, and I didn't know she was on the committee. She was appointed by the governor's office when Governor Strickland was in there. And basically, the lake means so much to us that if that Asian carp ever gets in there, it could be a huge catastrophe. But there hasn't been any found in Lake Erie up to this point. There's been some DEA found around Sandusky, but they haven't found any fish yet. So, and she was going through what they're all doing to try to stop it, because if it gets up here, it'll be devastating. Those are the fish that jump out of the water when you're going in a boat, and they get to 100 pounds. So if a 100-pound fish hits you where you're going at 30 miles an hour in a boat, it could kill you. So it was a very interesting talk. I also was at the groundbreaking for the school on Tuesday, June 3rd, and that was a very good event to get started, and hopefully I'll be around when we cut the ribbon. There's some information I have on that was sent to me. I'll just read you the paragraph. It says, are you struggling to make your mortgage payments? Maybe you're unemployed or earning less than before. Having trouble refinancing? Do you need help? Do you need to leave your home through a short sale or a deed in lieu of foreclosure? Has your rental property become unaffordable? Meet one-on-one with your mortgage company or a HUD-approved housing expert to identify solutions that best suit your situation. And this will take place on Tuesday, June 24th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Cleveland Convention Center's Grand Ballroom. So if you're having any of these economical problems involving your house, that might be the place to go. We got our recycling numbers today, and Brooklyn has recycled at a rate of 39.28%. The county average is 32.74, so we're above the county average. And the cities around us are all below us. Parma recycles at 10.42%, Parma Heights at 37.20%, and Cleveland at 9.72%. And Mrs. Gallagher mentioned about the regional dispatch. Brooklyn and Parma Heights were in negotiations with Parma. They have a regional dispatch for the three of us. And Parma's the one where it'll be at, and they need at least two more cities, which would be us and Parma Heights. And if they have three cities, then they're eligible to apply for money from the county, and there's $1.2 million left in the fund for 2014 yet. So if all three of us sign the papers, they can still maybe get part of it for 2014 and then also apply for 2015. So I had a meeting today with Parma Heights, and we have a few questions. We're going to have another meeting with our law directors. We have a couple of things we'd like to change on the contract, and then I'll ask for council's approval, and if they give it to me, then I'll notify Parma that we're willing to go along with this. And now getting back to these two ordinances, I'm 100% against both of them. Like some of the councilmen had said, when you're going to lose $4 million through American Greeting, you don't add another 1.7 on top of it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And Mr. DeMarco hasn't showed us how we're supposed to make up this money. I think he's saying that other companies would move in here. If that happens, that would be fantastic. I can't see a company with $75 million payroll moving in here because you lowered your city income tax a 0.25%. Fran and I talked to a lot of companies that come to the city, and I don't remember one of them even asking what the percentage was for our city income tax. Excuse me, our city income tax. I think everybody is against taxes. This is the wrong time to introduce this, absolutely the wrong time. Let's wait and see when American Greeting leaves where we're going to be at, because I think we're going to be pretty good. when American Greeting leaves, other companies will be moving in, and we're prepared for that. We put over $2 million aside in a rainy day fund to help us during that transition. And in the meantime, when American Greeting announced they were going to leave in 2009, we've added businesses. We've added the ambulance service up on Brook Park with 350 jobs. Key Bank is up to 3,000 employees. That's more than American Greeting ever had. And from what I understand, they expect to add another, maybe as many as another 500 this year up there. The Plain Dealer's going to add more people. They're going to bring them from downtown. They took out a building permit. I think it was, I don't know, a couple $1 million just to make more offices in the Plain Dealer. Everything's moving ahead. Mr. DeMarco votes against everything. He voted against Sheetz. He voted against LA Fitness, one of our biggest employers down on Clinton Road, Aero International, who has 500 employees, and they needed some help putting on a $2 million addition. Mr. DeMarco voted against it. He votes against everything we bring up, and then he complains about there's no economic development. So I don't understand that at all. This is the wrong time to have a tax reduction. And like our this tax, 90% of our money comes from our city income tax. We only get 7% of the property tax. 7%. The school gets 62% of the property tax. That's their bread and butter. The city income tax is our bread and butter. And I don't want to see anything at this time jeopardize that. And as far as this other charter amendment, I mean, it affects me, so it looks like it's sour grapes or something, but I would feel this way anyway. To me, when you start messing with your city charter on who can run for a public office, you're messing with fire, as far as I'm concerned. The people understand everything. If they don't want to vote for you, they don't vote for you. But to say that you can't vote because your last name is the same as somebody else is ridiculous. I think it's un-American and it's unconstitutional. This is the United States of America. Any citizen should be allowed to run for public office, no matter what their name is. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. I will now move on to Director's Report. First up tonight is our Finance Director, Dan Enovich.
Thank you, Council President Gallagher. Our general fund balance as of today is $9,933,171.11. Our general fund expenses year to date are $6,621,962.71 against revenues of $8,889,360.27. And as I explained at the Finance Committee meeting, these numbers are right on target with where we projected. And just as a note to Councilman Marco's comment, I know I give these three numbers out every council meeting I have since I've taken this position, and I will continue until I leave this position, because these three numbers are the most important to the financial health of the city. Just as each one of us have personal budgets, we know what comes in and what goes out and what's left. These numbers prevent what Councilman DeMarco described as happening in the history of the city. You will always know where we stand at every council meeting. I will pledge to you to provide that information. Also, good news, we sold our notes. We borrowed $1,375,000 last year. They were notes that matured in 1 year. We paid down $275,000 of that principal. We borrowed the notes at 0.35%. That's less than half of 1%. What's even more profound is it's less than what we borrowed at last year. Last year we paid 0.40%. This is a function of two things. One, of course, the economic stimulus that's been going on in this country since 2008, where the Federal Reserve has been buying treasuries and securities, treasury issues. And secondly, and more importantly, we have a AA2 credit rating, which, as you heard from our underwriters, keeps us very strong and allows us to borrow at these rates. So with our good credit rating, our hopefully positive forecast, we'll continue to have these opportunities afforded to us as we look forward towards our economic development and our building programs. Finally, all of our cash, which people say we have a lot of cash. There are $22,409,931.31 in the bank. When you start dividing this up for all the commitments that cash is committed to, so such as our landfill, such as our pensions, it gets dwindled away quite rapidly. So yes, we have a strong cash reserve, but if you look at the forward forecast for what we could be facing, it could be dwindled away quite quickly. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up, our Law Director, Scott Clausen.
Thank you. There's been a lot of discussion about the ordinance with regard to submitting.
Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
Is that on?
No, it's not.
Mr. Renovich just talks really loud.
That was not?
No.
You sounded good. No, it wasn't on.
Should have talked louder.
Nobody noticed, Dan.
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion about the ordinance with regard to putting on a charter provision. To answer Mr. Adamski's question, there's two ways an ordinance can be put on pursuant to the charter. One is somebody goes around and gets a bunch of signatures and presents it to council, and then council puts it on. And the other way is that council votes to put it on. So that is why Mr. DeMarco, brought it this way. He brought it to council to see if they would be willing to put this ordinance on. With regard to the Charter Review Commission, that is a group that meets every 6 years. And I forget the last time they met, but we're kind of in between cycles. So that's
2011.
2011, so the next one would be 2017. So that we're in between cycles, so that is why there isn't a Charter Review Commission. I guess the question that people want to know is, I guess, would this ordinance expose the city to some type of possible litigation? Anytime there is a controversial ordinance that, could limit people's rights, the city would be subject to some sort of challenge. Not saying that it would definitely happen, but yes, obviously, if this was passed, there may be a, higher percentage or an increase in percentage of the possibility of it being challenged. And I guess what council's kind of looking for, and I think the residents deserve, is what the arguments are for this ordinance, I guess both sides. And in doing the research, I didn't look at it, I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it because, anytime the law director, I could spend all day looking into issues, that could happen, and then could it be challenged, and what way it would be challenged, and things like that. But I, kind of have better things to do than kind of guess as to what happened or what's going to happen. Obviously, if this was passed, there could be a challenge. I would have to kind of guess as to how it would be challenged, and then make a determination as to the arguments the person would bring, and then try to make a conclusion as to what a judge would determine based on those arguments that I've basically made up. And then also you'd have to look at what maybe a court of appeals would do on a decision of looking at how that judge ruled. And it kind of goes on and on. But basically the arguments are this. This basically looks at the right of an individual to run for council and for mayor or elected position. So you're taking the rights of an individual to run versus the right of the residents of a city to determine who is eligible to run through their charter, basically pursuant to home rule powers. So that's what we're really looking at. We're looking at a person's right to run versus the city's right to implement who they want to run through the charter. And obviously anything that went through the charter would be the people making that determination through a vote. There are currently limitations in the charter. For example, I know when Mr. Van Kirk tried running a few years ago, one of the provisions in the charter is that you have to be a resident for 3 years. He wasn't a resident for 3 years and still wanted to run for council, and he got the petitions and things like that, and the Board of Elections told him that he couldn't run. So there are limitations as to who could run for council already in the charter. Could that have been challenged? Yes, but it wasn't. With regard to this particular charter amendment, I only know of one city that has language that's similar to this. There may be others, I'm not sure, but Seven Hills does have a provision in their charter that basically limits 2 elected officials from serving at the same time. I did talk to Seven Hills Law Director. That issue has never been challenged. So if it did come, I guess if this was passed and it was challenged, it would be kind of a case of first impression, which would be hard to kind of determine what they're gonna, what the result would be. But basically the arguments are the city's power of home rule to determine the qualifications for council and mayor versus the person's right to run for election. I hope that answers some of the questions.
It's not an easy answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to requests. First up, we have a request for authorization to advertise for bids for a full maintenance service program, which includes heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system at City Hall, Senior Center, Service Garage, Animal Shelter, Historical Society, and Fire Department.
Move to authorize advertising for bids.
Second.
To advertise for bids, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Katie Gallagher?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Next, we have approval of bids for the 2014 repair and resurface of various streets. Mrs. Pucci covered almost everything. Just want to add in that the work covers Outlook Drive, Historical Society parking lot repave, road owned south of Bidoff and Bentwood. Also, the contract provides for an estimated completion date of no later than October 31st, 2014.
Move to award the bid to Roniak Paving for sections 1 and 2 for $1,195,852.25.
Second.
To approve the bids, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Katie Gallagher?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Next, we have a request to accept transfer of assets, communication radios for the fire and police. Again, Mrs. Pucci covered everything. Additionally, we talked about that the fire and police will also need to purchase chargers for these radios at an approximate cost of $21,000, and this will be at the next council meeting, and we will have to amend the appropriations.
Move to accept the radio equipment.
Second.
To accept the transfers of assets, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Katie Gallagher?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Next, we have the authorization to purchase the bulletproof vests.
Move to approve the
Second.
purchase.
To authorize the purchase, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Katie Gallagher?
Yes.
Tony DeMarco?
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 2014-3, declaring it the necessity of an election on the question of approving enactment of an ordinance to amend Section 181.03, 181.031, and 181.071A of Chapter 181 Income Tax of the Codified Ordinance of the City of Brooklyn, Ohio, to decrease the municipal income tax rate from 2.5 to 2.25%. This is on second reading. Resolution 2014-4, adopting the tax budget for the fiscal year 2015. This is on first reading. Ordinance 2014-30, enacting Section 52518, illegal conveyance of prohibited items into the Brooklyn City Jail of the Brooklyn Codified Ordinance. Need a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Can I have a
Are we
motion?
passing this by emergency?
Yes.
or Do you want us to suspend the rules, or is the emergency clause sufficient?
I would, you might as well suspend.
Yeah.
Okay.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Next, we have ordinance 2014-32 to amend section 181.03, 181.031, and 181.071A of chapter 181 income tax of the codified ordinances of the city of Brooklyn, Ohio, to decrease the municipal income tax rate from 2.5 to 2.25 and declaring an emergency. This is on second reading. Ordinance 2014-33, providing for the submission to the electorate of 2 amendments to the municipal charter. This is on second reading. Ordinance 2014-34, authorizing the purchase and installation of an air system at the service garage in the amount of $92,193.97 by K Company. This is on first reading. Ordinance 2014-35, authorizing the sale of certain city-owned vehicles throughout the Greater Cleveland Auto Auction, public auctioneers for the purpose of disposing of city vehicles and equipment at public sale. This is on first reading. Ordinance 2014-36, authorizing transfers and advances during 2014. This is on first reading.
Excuse me, may I be recognized?
Sure.
On 35 in the Finance Committee, we recommended by emergency because some of them have actually already gone. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
So for 2014-35, introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
I just want to remind everyone that the 23rd is council's last meeting before the summer break. Additionally, as mentioned by Mr. Selhertz, we will likely have a special council meeting on June 24th. We like everything to go through the 3 readings, and this gives us the opportunity to close up a couple ordinances before we resume in September. We will also be talking about at that work session, street lighting, as he mentioned. Does anyone else have anything for the good of?
May I be recognized? Mr. Clausen, could you take a little bit of time, and last meeting I talked a little bit about the difference between the 3 reading requirement and the emergency measure, the difference being that, you know, we can suspend the rules for the 3 readings, but if something goes 3 readings and it doesn't have the emergency clause, then it sits for 30 days. So my understanding is if it's gone 3 readings when we adopt it, as long as it receives 2/3, which would be 5, that it isn't necessary to suspend any rules. We're just passing it with that emergency clause in it by the supermajority. Could you take a look at that? Okay, thank you.
Any other director or council member have anything they'd like to say? Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes. Good question.